I returned from a weekend retreat to a wild mess. My family farm teemed with strangers in tactical uniforms firing paintballs all over my open fields there. On my front lawn stood Vivian Carter, the HOA president, a blue headband tied around her head, running the scene like she owned all of my property. She figured that using my peaceful haven as a battlefield would bully me into selling what she didn't understand, was that choosing brawl with an old special reconnaissance master on his home ground wasn't merely reckless, it was the folly that would unravel her utterly. Did they honestly believe that they could outwit a man who'd taught counter-ambush tactics for 25 years in the military? All I ever wanted was tranquility. That's why I purchased this 15-acre farm 3 years ago. A refuge after decades of warfare left me with PTSD that pills could not heal. The VA doctors advised me to do something grounding. So I came to this earth intending the sprawling lawns, tending the landscape, building a priest retreat. It healed me in ways I never anticipated. I began hosting small community gatherings and opened my fields to veterans gatherings and therapy sessions. For the first time since retirement, I felt purpose. The farm, with its rolling hills like the ones of my youth, its northern woods for privacy and southern fields for space, was freedom after years in tight military living quarters. It was part of an unusual HOA designed to keep the area rural-looking, yet accommodating some growth. Most neighbors diligent people. Some vets respected my boundaries and appreciated my contributions. All changed 6 months ago. When Vivian Carter assumed control of the HOA, she'd won a questionable election, conveniently scheduled when many were unable to vote, promoting a prestige agenda. The atmosphere changed quickly. I kept my military background on the down low. Neighbors knew I was a vet, but not that I'd spent the majority of my career in special reconnaissance leading the way. Charting terrain, preparing battlefields. I never thought that I'd require those abilities here. Then Vivian arrived, unbidden, clipboard in hand, staring at my farm like a predator. "Your agriculture doesn't align with our new community vision," she said, her tone insincere, looking at my cornfield in her immaculate beige slacks and oversized sunshades. "This land's been zoned agricultural forever." I answered calmly, "The bylaws." "Safeguard that," she sneered. "Bylaws modify Mr. High communities." Develop a week later, I received a violation notice. My tractor, parked unaltered for years, suddenly constituted excessive equipment. A friend at the county clerk's office warned me Vivian's husband operated Pinnacle Resorts, a developer scooping up adjacent land, and her son Ethan owned Battlegrounds, a struggling paintball enterprise, which lost its lease recently. This was not coincidental. It was a strategy when Vivian attempted banning home businesses, targeting my farmers market sales. I mobilized neighbors such as the craft-selling instructor, the garage mechanic, and the home baker at the HOA meeting. 15 of us shut her down 18-5. "This isn't over," she hissed as she passed me. She was right next day. My irrigation pipes were slashed. Cameras nudged just off, angle too precise for vandals. Complaints piled up. My barn was ugly, my compost smelly, my truck traffic. I added more cameras. Footage caught Vivian snapping pics along my property line while I was at the Vigneer. But technically legal, then a board insider leaked a hidden meeting where Vivian rammed through recreation bylaw. Assisting at a community festival, I discovered her forgotten folder designs of my farm as a paintball park signed with Ethan's logo. I took pictures back, I gave it, and saw her flinch, planning renovations. I asked just concepts. She lied for my property. She evaded, but I recognized her play. She wanted my farm, and the HOA was her weapon. The veterans retreat, 3 days of fishing and counseling, had alleviated my tension that disappeared Sunday when I drove up to paintball bedlam. Bursts of markers resounded, dozens scurried across my fields, using hay bales for cover. A banner on my barn. Read Battlegrounds Championship. My crops were destroyed. Equipment splattered, tire tracks scored my land. Vivian stood on my lawn in cargo pants and that headband overseeing a tent setup, Ethan rallying players around. I picked up a stray paintball gun and faced her. "What's this?" I snarled. She smiled, "Welcome back. The HOA ordered your property, a recreation zone, emergency bylaws." She presented me with a paper. I saw defects immediately. "You can't appropriate private property like this. It's community use. CED, ICE hard section, 5 paragraph 3. Unclaimed land. This is my working farm," I retorted. Ethan swaggered over. Been scheming this design months, perfect terrain. Cleared some trash plants. I took pictures of everything, catching his confession on tape. Get off my property. I told ICE, cold call the sheriff. She taunted we're approved. I looked over ruin and determined this was war and I knew war. I called Sheriff Lawson, he reported, but couldn't act without a court order, calling it a civil mess document. He counseled next, my attorney Laura Bennett, a property rights. Ace said they've overreached, but HOA cases take time. Third Nick Carter, an old squad created insecurity. Rallied 4 vets in hours in my living room. I briefed them. Land grab Paul, our intel man, told us divided labor. Tina excavated online. Nick ran background checks. Carlos researched county records. Paul connected the dots in 48 hours. We had it. Vivian's husband purchased 6 adjacent plots surrounding my farm. Ethan's company was broke looking for loans for a new location. A resort permit described my land as Phase 2. Tina uncovered Vivian's emails scheming to displace problem owners, and the insider provided secret meeting minutes. Illegal tactics she'd sold as legitimate. Nick discovered her county commissioner, Ron, betting on strong leadership. My farm was her reward in Laura's sunny office. She went over our hall fraud, trespassing, by-W abuse. They're cooked, but courts take their time. We need an injunction. I told them we prepared for hours, obtaining an emergency hearing with Judge Harrington, a property rights hawk, for Friday. Carlos arranged me to see Commissioner Lopez. I presented to her devastated veterans. Crops she's seeking office. Lopez seethed, instructing code enforcement and county prohibition on non-farm use pending review. My former co-General Thompson summoned, heard civilians strike your AO 5th group. Had your back confidence was boosted, legal county and military gears in motion. I patrolled my farm as a recon pro, not a farmer adjusting terrain ditches, sight lines into a subtle ambush. Civilians don't understand. I trained soldiers to dominate landscapes. Tina discovered Ethan lacked insurance, causing a county audit. Nick, Paul, and staff modified my land legal maintenance that regulated movement cameras concealed in trees, uploading to lawyers and officials. Carlos alerted Ethan's bogus venue permit. They're careless. Nick reported Friday hearing reported. Laura verified drones from vets to shoot from public roads, their error. Nick inquired as he departed. Supposing you'd KBI. Mobilized neighbors too. Vivian harassed others in Ed Rollins' garage, 10 shared tales. Ed's antenna discovered M. Lynn's daycare quoted, the Garcia is bothered for noise. Grace Turner's roses unapproved her husband's purchase of land. Rob Perez reported we allied ourselves. Ed tracked record, can impact meetings. Rob dug funds. Grace had 15 years worth of notes corroborating bylaw violations. I tipped journalist Dan Fields regarding paintball cleanup. He caught whiff of scoop the vets. Food bank head Sophie Ortiz wrote down crop loss 60 families impacted by Friday. Opposition was multi-front Saturday. Vivian's SUV led paintball convoy back onlookers on the lookout. Nick stated through earpiece they dropped confused by my adjustments. Useless production inundated them. They installed where we directed them, in sight from the highway. I allowed them to struggle 2 hours, then appeared in equipment. Bullhorn up, you made my farm an arena of war watch. Why I'm the greatest I moved, like in drills picking off players with accuracy. Employing terrain that they could not decipher. Ethan's champs crashed quickly. Vivian stared, I halted. CE, fire depart. Now you're intruding. Sheriff Laura Lopez and news vans rolled in timely fashion. Court order prohibits this, Lawson explained, handing papers. It's fraud. Laura added, producing affidavits. Veterans lost food. Lopez snapped Vivian's bravado. Cracked, you planned this? She hissed. No, you did. I said for the cameras, I simply defended mine legally. Tuesday's HOA meeting filled the hall. Laura outlined the scam, illegal by loss, damage conflicts. The whistleblower proved a seat, board members resign facing liability. Dan's expose struck Ethan's company closed down. Vivian's campaign wrecked her husband's business, distanced itself. A new board, Ed and Grace, took over. Promising rural roots, Lopez established farm protections. Countywide Pinnacle paid restoration fees. Ethan's equipment was seized. My farm prospered. Veterans programs increased. Fields healed Redemption Field. Once a battleground became a therapy. Haven Vivian moved out, stopping to ask how you outsmart me. You saw land to seize. I said I saw terrain to keep. It's what I do. She left and I observed vets until soil neighbors walk. Trails of disorder transformed a portion my direction.